Hello everybody and welcome to Dungeon Discussion, a show where I talk about many different stories from 1st all the way through to 5th, and from play sessions from my personal experiences, and kind of discuss the game into fuller details, because it's never been done before. Anyways, please sit back, relax, and enjoy the story about the 4 rangers who didn't know what a bow was. Now, Dungeons & Dragons is a game that's full of loot, magic, fantasy, and items, and of course creatures as well. Now, monsters like the Beholder, mimics, and even red dragons and other types. Now, on top of this is also character customization in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. This consists of your very basic fighters, your very basic monks, paladins, sorcerers, warlocks, wizards, all that good jazz. But today, more specifically, we're going to be talking about the Ranger. Now, the Ranger is very sneaky, sticks to the wild, has a proficiency in ranged weapons, uses ranged weapons. Now, in this story, at the time, I had a small party of a few friends, very new to the game, and at the time they decided to use the Ranger. Now, you might think, hey, that's pretty good. 4 Rangers running around, kicking butt, hiding in the shadows, kicking butt, getting free treasure, beating up monsters. It's pretty good, right? Well, it's good if you have a bow. Now, at the time, it seemed that they decided to go out of the Ranger's comfort zone. And by doing this, instead of using those bows and arrows, they seemed to take them away and use heavy weaponry. Anything you could use to hack and slash your way to victory. I'd given many feeble attempts to try to persuade the party, such as bows that could fire 3 arrows at a time, or infinite quivers, all with silver-tipped arrows poisoned to the touch. But my attempts were pointless. The party felt better equipped with the heavy weaponry they had actually chosen before, and it seemed that they preferred this heavy weaponry over their own bows and arrows, which this is kind of problematic, for as they would go to shops, they wouldn't look for steel-tipped arrows to, restock their arsenals. They would stick with their bloodied clubs and axes with the blood and teeth of their enemies. The party stated that this choice seemed to enhance their battle style. This, of course, to me was quite silly. What was a ranger without his bow? It's kind of hard to be a ranger without a ranged weapon. Now, the campaign we were doing at the time resided in my continent, in my world, in the continent of Tiersgarth. The party had traveled to a small elvish city called Tessile, and they were looking for a bit of coinage. In the adventure prior to this, they had actually lost one of their party members, so there was sadness spread across the air. Finding old necromancer's relics is quite the task, and not everybody made it out. Now, as they approached the city, they did the usual meandering, asking about basic rumors, going to the tavern to get a bit of food and drink, and just looking for the basic job board to find any kidnappings, any retrieval, fetch quests, that kind of basic things. Now, it wasn't until the party had entered the marketplace that they started to find some solid results. These results consisted of basically finding a man named Arlo, a small fishing shack, selling his wonderful utensils and fishing supplies to traveling wanderers and shipyard mates alike. As I spoke to him, he detailed the job of basically finding an old caravan that had gone missing 3 days ago, carrying some very not-so-legal supplies. The party was instructed to keep it out of the guard's sight and out of their own for Arlo's safety, and the party's safety. Now, due to their last adventure, they actually weren't properly equipped for a mission like this. Going off and finding caravans usually would be pretty easy, but the party was very low on coin, very low on rations, and very low on supplies in general. So, collectively, they put together as much gold as they could, coming to around 700, and they went off to go and find some basic supplies at the stores so they could go and actually complete the mission to the best of their abilities. Now, the place they first went to was the blacksmith. Of course, as a DM, I was thinking, oh great, they're going to go, buy some more arrows, re-equip their arsenal, and really kick some butt when they get off to this adventure. But the first thing they all did collectively was trade in their bows and arrows for battle axes, war hammers, battle hammers, and clubs. Steel reinforced clubs. Ah yes, every ranger's dream. So after properly equipping themselves, the party decided to head off towards the mountain pass, seeing as it seemed to be the most logical route for the actual smugglers to take. It wasn't long before they came across a broken-down caravan, the wheel on the front shattered, and the corpses of 2 guards who obviously were dead as the wolves were feasting upon them. The party had killed the wolves, picked up all the cargo, grabbed the scattered contents, and maintained the caravan as best they could, fixing the wheel in any way they possibly could. They eventually resulted in having one of the party members, Tyler, carry the actual side of the caravan, acting like the fourth wheel for the entire trip. So, as they continued on down the mountain pass, they started to get very suspicious as they noticed movement along the ridges of the very top. No more than 5 seconds later, the party had noticed a large boulder crash in front of them, blocking off their way ahead, and behind them there was a large explosion as fiery chunks of rock fell down to the ground, as a small miniature rock slide occurred, completely blocking off behind them as well, trapping them within the ridges. Above, they heard a shrill cry. "Oi, you, down there! Give us all the cargo right now and nobody gets hurt." As the party members looked up, they seemed to notice bandits, weapons drawn, bows and arrows ready. The party members, of course, drew their bows. Well, at least they would have, assuming they actually had bows and arrows. At the time, the party members hadn't even chose any cantrips that used any range-damaging effects, such as Firebolt. Now, because of this, they were stuck there. So they drew out their battle axes, maces, warhammers, and swords, only to realize that the cliffs were too steep to climb, and even if they did, they'd be shot with arrows, and the enemies were too far away to actually do anything. Before they knew it, the party was encased within a flurry of arrows, whizzing through the air, piercing their flesh and the tarp upon the caravan. In the conflict, one of their party members, Tyler, the fourth wheel of the caravan, had fallen dead, leaving the party distraught, with no idea as to where to go from here.
But that doesn't seem very fair.
Well, it's not.
But,
Shh. There are no buts in D&D.
how are we supposed to win?
I don't know. You should have had a bow, I guess. I mean, it's not like I designed this entire sequence for 4 rangers. What are you talking about?
But how do we win, Ben?
Yeah, I don't know.
Ben?
Guess you should have had a bow?
Ben? How do we win?
Well, it's been a good play session, guys. I guess I'll see you later. Tyler's dead. It's been fun, guys. See you later. I'll see you.
Eventually, the party members decided to clamber out of the small ravine. The bandits moved in, overthrew the caravan, and the party members ran off, returning to Arlo empty-handed. But that's alright. At least they learned a valuable life lesson. Well, sort of. I mean, in the end, they did actually decide to keep going on with their characters only using these heavy weapons, whether to be a joke or just to tick me off as the DM. Either way, they went on as they did. These players, these characters, these wonderful men and women, to this day stumble around the forests, through the jungles, through the harsh deserts, wielding not their bow and arrow, but their wit and their poor strength rolls and strength checks, with their battle axes, warhammers, and battlehammers. The legends that weren't actually legends. The rangers who never used a bow in their entire life. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.